Good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of Health meeting for November 2020, Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. My name is Ty Menser. I'm the chair of the Board of Health. In the boardroom is Vice Chair Commissioner John Hutchings and Commissioner Gary Edwards, as well as County Manager Mira Chavez and some associated staff. We have Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, our Director of Public Health and Social Services Shelley Slaughter, our County Health Officer Dr. Dimiana Abdulmalik, and the Clerk of the Board of Health Lydia Hodgkinson, along with some of the public health staff that will be introduced as their items come up because they're here to give presentations or provide information to the board. So I know we're running just a little bit behind, not too bad. We had a lot of business to take care of. With the meeting called to order, I'm going to ask for an approval of today's agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agenda for the Board of Health for November 10th, 2020.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion on the agenda?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Agenda approved. We have meeting minutes from 3 meetings, and I'd be asking for a motion on approval of those minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the meeting minutes from September 16th, 2020, special meeting, October 13th, 2020, regular meeting, and October 13th, 2020, public hearing minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Nope.
No, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Those minutes are approved. That brings us to number 2, opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health. And we do have a list of folks. And so before I get to that list, I will read the general guidelines for public comment. The Board of Health for Thurston County welcomes comments from the public at our meetings. However, there are some guidelines governing such comments to ensure they are appropriate and do not take advantage of the fact that most meetings are televised or live streamed. When you're announced, please introduce yourself, including the area of the county in which you reside. Please address the board, not the audience or staff. Please silence your cell phones. The board will not respond to public comments, and on a as needed basis, the county manager will follow up on specific items. Speakers are limited to a total of 3 minutes to address the Board of Health. Meeting attendees cannot donate part of their speaking time to another speaker. The board reserves the right to restrict a person's opportunity to address the meeting for a good cause. No comments that are lewd and offensive, inflammatory, hateful, defamatory, or discriminatory in nature. Please be respectful. No outbursts of any kind. No comments that are commercial in nature, such as promotion of a for-profit business. Materials provided to the county are considered public records, subject to public release upon request, pursuant to the Public Records Act, Chapter 4256 RCW. Remarks about pending land use permits or similar matters that could come to the board on appeal should not be addressed. Thank you for your cooperation. And we're just finishing up an electioneering cycle, and there's no electioneering allowed in your public comment. So with those guidelines, I have 5 names. There may be some additional names that came in late or that are on the phone, and we will address those, but I'm going to give the names 2 at a time so that the person who's on deck can be mentally prepared to take the podium when the person before them is finished. First is John Pettit. Second is Terry Ballard.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is John Pettit. I live on Rich Road in East Olympia. The first thing I want to do is address the Board of Health. Now, when I drive around, I grew up here. I was born on the west side in the old St. Peter's Hospital. I spent a whole lifetime here. In my entire time and lifetime, I have not seen such distressing issues of health that I do right now. I see all along Capitol Lake over here what appears to be a drug-infested place. I know there's mentally ill people that we're not helping. And I'm not sure if you even know this. You are the only Board of Health. If you see a problem, it is your obligation to take it on. Don't wait for the city of Olympia to fix the problems for your Board of Health. Your domain is the entire county, which includes inside the cities. You collect millions of dollars for treatment sales tax to help people with their issues. I guess I'd kind of like a report. Tell me, how much benefit has gone to actually putting these people in treatment? And then the living situation. I mean, I have just this last week come across the idea that we're actually going to find it acceptable that because, well, tents aren't really the right answer, we'll build plywood boxes with no windows, no heat, no light, a plywood door for a closure, and that's no insulation. That's acceptable housing to put people in? No, it's not even close. So part of your domain, if you see a major problem, if it's a drug culture, please, and have law enforcement enforce the laws. Put these people in some type of treatment program, make them beneficial to society again. But just to continue to allow these people to, well, they're getting by, they're living. They're not living. They're just being stowed away. I mean, you might as well, like a pig in a stall, you know, hey, let's boost these people up. Give them a helping hand up. Don't ignore them, and don't let people continue to take advantage of them by making them drug addicts, promoting drugs. My last comment's real simple. Let's get this meeting time moved to like 7 o'clock at night so the whole public can actually come and be involved. More people need to be able to talk about this. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to, with indulgence of the vice chair, I'm going to ask him to keep an eye on I can't see the timer, obviously, and I barely hear it. So if the vice chair could take that role of dealing the timekeeping, I would sure appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Next is Terry Ballard, followed by Natasha Landrum.
Good evening or good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Terry Ballard. I'm a 35-year veteran, 29 years, 7 months towards an active duty retirement, and I've been residing in Thurston County for 16 years. I was born here in the state of Washington. I take it on real offense if you use the Veterans Fund wrongfully. And I will conclude with that, with the health department, is the cause. As you know, a veteran can get help. A veteran just needs to call a card and get help, get off the street, get everything free of charge of the county. No, we'd rather spend $60,000, $70,000 on a veterans fund for a homeless shelter. What does that help my veterans? It doesn't. Okay? And especially when the maximum allowed is $1,000 per year and you don't have 60 honorably serving veterans who have been discharged. I'm here to talk about LOT. Your vice chair is on the board of a LOT. Okay? I'm wondering why there's 12 million gallons a day of sewage, effluent, coming from the Olympia plant only. 12 million gallons a day coming out of that plant. Where's my health department here? Okay, they're already being sued. The state is already being sued by an out of state environmental group for this. When are we going to start putting the health department in progress of testing all this stuff because of a future environment, or is it because we need to deal with it now? As Mr. Edwards knows, we have two parts to a sewage plant. There's effluent and then there's sludge. He knows as well as I do that the sludge is being dumped in our forest areas, being dumped out in Yelm, because they don't want to, because Lot does not want to pay the cost to get it transported down to Oregon and get it incinerated. And we're paying stormwater fees, so a combined sewer system can overload during times of rain and dump raw sewage into our food system. I'm wondering why we have so many shutdowns in Capitol Lake, and so many shutdowns right there where the sewage plant dumps as far as the shellfish. Why do we? Because they continue to dump. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of you not overwatching what we're supposed to do as health directors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Next is Natasha Landrum, followed by Sarah Overbay.
I am here today both as a mom from Rainier and as a school counselor.
Ma'am, just for the
Could I-
record, your name and where you reside in the county?
Oh, do I get my time back? 'Cause this is real close and I got to read so fast.
All right,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I'm
Yep.
Natasha Landrum. I live in Rainier, Washington, work in Olympia, Washington. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I have 3 children, ages 14, 11, and 6, and just recently took in a 4th child that is 16. Rainier is 30 miles east of Olympia and is the smallest K-12 school district in Thurston County by a significant amount. The overall population of the entire town is less than almost every high school in Thurston County. Why is this important? This is important because we have lost the autonomy that a small school and community provides. We have been made to follow this blanket recommendation that Dr. A sends out, despite the fact that we have all precautions in place in our students to return to school. My first grader was attending school hybrid for the past month. The school-to-teacher ratio rate was 8-1. There were 0 positive COVID cases, teachers felt safe, and students felt like kids again. My daughter cried when we told her she would not be going back to school. She still keeps her backpack packed and organized, along with her lunchbox. Rainier's contribution to the overall positive rate for Thurston County for COVID is 1.7%. We have shut down our educational system for 1.7% of the entire county. That makes no sense and further suggests that we need more data points and collaboration than just Dr. A's letters. Our superintendent at Rainier is a good person, a nice man, and I don't envy the burden that he carries. However, as he repeats in every letter he sends out, he includes language such as directive from Dr. A, strongly recommended, or avoid litigation. So despite the language in the decision tree that states school administrators are ultimately responsible to establish appropriate educational services, it is clear that school administrators and superintendents do not feel secure in their role. Our superintendent recently asked the Thurston County Health Department if we could go by zip codes. It makes sense, and that's exactly what other smaller districts have been doing and doing successfully. He was told by the people here today that residents travel all over Thurston, Pierce, and King County for work and shopping, so this would not be considered. Why? We have been working, shopping, and traveling for the last 7 months, yet our numbers remain safe. As a high school counselor, I cannot even begin to describe how defeated I feel for my students and my families. Parents and students are begging to come back, desperate for advocacy. I have permission from a student to share his email to me. In past years, I've always loved school, but this year has left me hanging on by a thread. I learn because it's fun, but this year I can't find a way to enjoy classes. All of the joy is sucked straight out of me, and all my classes leave me with dread and despair. I know it sounds dramatic, but I'm serious. I look forward to going to school, seeing my friends and learning. Now it's nothing but dismay. At this point, I'm pretty close to just giving up. My mental health is rapidly deteriorating. I need help. I get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these a day. For a county that prides itself in social justice, advocacy, and disenfranchised and serving the underrepresented, we are truly hurting those students the most. No one seems to consider, or at least consider enough, are these kinds of students. The students that we, doggone it.
Doggone it.
You have
Go ahead and finish up your thought.
Okay, the students that we don't hear from, the students that haven't attended a Zoom all year, the 15-year-olds that are taking care of their siblings because their parents are working. Those are the kids that keep me up at night, and I would hope those of you making these decisions could understand how much damage is being done. Other states, counties, and countries have made the choice to put students in education back at the forefront. I pray we follow their lead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Landrum. Next is Sarah Overbay and then Stephen Manning. And I'll just remind you to start off by introducing yourself and roughly where you live in the county. And then you've got 3 minutes. Thank you, Ms. Overbay.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Sarah Overbay. I live in the Little Rock area. I'm joined tonight, as you can see, by some fellow community members that are wanting to share their concerns regarding the recommendations surrounding schools that come from your department. These recommendations coming from your department are directly affecting the overall emotional and physical health of the families and students that live in Thurston County to an extent and trajectory never before seen. It is imperative for you to have a very real pulse on the realities these decisions are making. In August, the Washington Department of Health issued a decision tree with guidance at how health officials and school administrators could address the reopening decision, specifically addressing that ultimately school administrators are responsible. It goes on to note that with limited data, levels were suggested to provide considerations for when to reopen. Along with COVID activity level and test positivity, other health and education risks and benefits to children and their families were to be considered when making school recommendations. Our community is asking that our health officer follow the state guidance and consider these factors. In terms of health and education risks, the Department of Health just released an encouraging model with countermeasures. Transmission was very similar than keeping kids fully remote. Further evidence from other states and locally is confirming and supporting the reality that opening schools are not increasing COVID transmission. The health risks from keeping kids remote are far more exhausting and include skyrocketing depression, increased suicides, abuse, neglect, obesity. In terms of education risk, we have already lost an additional 4 months this fall, and inequities in children are exacerbated in remote learning. We all know kids need to be in school. I'm not alone or unsupported by these ideas. At least 6 other county health officers in Spokane, Chelan, Lewis, Benton, Franklin, Yakima, and Clark counties have served as collaborators and supported their districts, providing hybrid instruction in counties with significantly higher than suggested COVID metrics. Along with Governor Kate Brown of Oregon, they acknowledged the ever-evolving literature supporting opening schools and considered the health and education benefits at this point. I can understand the recent recommendation to suspend in-person learning until January. However, I was very disappointed there was not flexibility issued to smaller schools successfully holding in-person learning while daycares and education camps with larger cohorts were allowed to continue. Come January, we must see the broader lens, the other factors as instructed by our state health department, and be ready to let all our efforts and investment towards minimizing risk do their job. I'm here to advocate for the health of kids in Thurston County. We need you to advocate for our kids. Our kids and families are an integral part of our public health. This is a pandemic that has required isolation and prescribed remote learning on a generation already fighting an epidemic of depression, suicide, and tech addiction. I implore all of you to listen to your community has to say, because I quote you, Commissioners Hutchings and Edwards, when I say these kids are 100% of our future and deserve every right to thrive and survive in our community.
Look at that, you have 3 seconds left. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Overbay. Next is Stephen Manning, followed by, well, then we'll go to anyone else who's joining the room. And then I know there's at least one person on the phone, so please hang on. You'll be next in the queue. But next is Mr. Manning.
My name is Stephen Manning. I'm a resident of Olympia, and I come here today asking that the Board of Health recommend that schools reopen. Data from other counties show that schools can be reopened without harm to students or teachers. In fact, in other counties, the COVID-related data is worse than Thurston County. In several counties, King, Kittitas, Pierce, Chelan, Spokane, and Lewis, the rate of infection per 100,000 residents are all higher than Thurston County. In Spokane, the rate is 235 per 100,000 residents. The percent positive is also higher in Lewis, Grant, Spokane, Clark, Chelan, Yakima, Pierce, and Kittitas. These counties all have school districts that have opted to have at least a portion of their learning face-to-face. Even in Thurston County, there are private schools that are open for face-to-face instruction. These schools have all reopened safely. If these other school districts and counties throughout Washington can reopen safely, why not public schools in Thurston County? According to the Department of Health's decision-making tree, the local health officer should advise the school administrator and the school community on the level of COVID-19 activity, among other things. DOH goes on to say that the school administrators are ultimately responsible to establish appropriate educational services. Right now, there seems to be a disconnect between what the DOH decision tree says and the reality of what is going on. The Tumwater School District is not treating the health officer as an advisor, and they certainly don't seem to think that they have the final say in whether to reopen. One clear takeaway after reading the school district's website or listening to recent school board meetings is that the Board of Health is the one deciding whether schools reopen or not. On October 14th, the health officer stated that she strongly recommended at least a 14-day pause for expansion of hybrid in-person learning models. This strongly recommended language was repeated in her latest letter on November 6th. Private schools in Thurston County have heard the strongly recommended language before, but they have opened without issue. This type of language goes against the DOH decision-making tree and places too much power in the Board of Health. I fear that it is making the school districts feel powerless to make their own decisions after they get the necessary advice from the board. Tumwater High School says that 41% of its students are failing in at least one subject now. That is up from 10% in normal years. The suicide rate is climbing. Students are suffering from a lack of social interaction, yet multiple studies say that a return to school is safe, that opening schools does not contribute to disease progression in a community. If other counties across Washington state can have school districts reopen with higher transmission numbers than Thurston counties, I am confident that we can safely reopen schools here. Thank you for your time. Perfect.
Perfect.
Timing, man.
You guys are well-oiled public comment machines. Thank you, Mr. Manning. We've got, I've got no more names on my list. I'd ask the county manager if there's additional individuals in the room, and if not, we go to the phone.
Yeah, I don't have anybody else in the room, Commissioner. Let me check the conference call. Good afternoon. For those who have joined us via conference call, thank you very much for your patience. If you'd like to provide a public testimony in front of the Board of Health, please unmute yourself, state your name, where you reside in the county, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Shannon Duncan. I am from Tumwater, Washington. I have 2 children, both are online learning. Both of them are struggling to keep up with school. It's been 10 long months already, and I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep, I can hear you.
Can I restart, please?
No, we're hearing you.
We got all that you stated so far.
It's been 10 long months already, and I just encourage you to please reopen our schools for in-person learning. Our whole family is barely hanging on mentally from this, and it's time that we make a change for these kids. Just a few points to make. Dr. A's specialty is in emergency medicine, and I would encourage the Department of Health and anyone making decisions on behalf of our children to have a specialty in pediatrics. We as parents need full transparency as to what decisions are being made on behalf of our children. These decisions directly affect the health and well-being of our children on a daily basis. We need pediatricians making these life-altering decisions. We cannot wait a day longer. Let school admins make these decisions and open our schools. I would like to thank everyone for their tireless work thus far. I want you to note that I am an immune-compromised parent, and my child completed in-school summer school with 0 issues with COVID-19. Both my children work, and we have had 0 issues with COVID-19. We can move forward with precautions in place. We do it every day at the grocery stores, doctor's offices, gyms, daycare facilities, which some are located on our school campuses, liquor stores, bowling alleys, movie theaters, and private schools. And in closing, someone said to me the other day, the class of 2020 will be known in history as the class that never was. Imagine what that will do to these kids. You have the power to change this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anybody else who would like to provide public testimony this afternoon? Please unmute yourself, your name, where you reside in the county. You have 3 minutes.
You bet. Thank you. My name is Jeff Yates. I'm a Thurston County unincorporated resident residing down here around Black Lake.
Can you spell your last name,
Delphi
please?
Valley area. I'm here to talk to you real quickly about schools as well as the others here in Thurston County. I've got 3 kids. 2 of them are learning from home, and they're in high school, and 1 is at a local private school. I'm also here as a board member of one of the local private schools that has been in person since the fall semester started. And I can tell you, it is possible to do school safely. It is beyond me how we are even in this situation, keeping our kids home. We have had no issues with COVID spreading amongst kids, staff, or parents. We have good protocols in place. They meet all the Washington Department of Health guidelines. We're in consultation with the Department of Health often on measures being taken to protect the kids and the staff and the families. I am concerned, genuinely, legitimately concerned as a father for my kids' emotional well-being, not to mention their academic decline due to learning from home. Look at suicide rate trends, the number of kids and parents needing counseling as a result of being confined to home. I mean, are you even considering the emotional health impact on these kids and parents? I mean, listen to this. Sorry for the emotion. I'm very emotional about this because these are families. This is my family I'm talking about. Listen to this. I asked my kids, how do you feel about this? Overwhelmed, isolated, alone, missing out on my high school experience. Stuff you can't get back, Dad. Homecoming, sports, first day of high school. Stresses me out like heck, quote unquote. So much homework and very little teacher access to work through problems. Missing my friends and quote unquote people, just people. We just sit on our screens all day and don't talk with anyone. Dad, I'm willing to wear a mask and social distance. It's just cool. And that's the reality that I want you guys to hear coming through. I mean, I can see a difference between my kids that are in school and the one that's not. There's 2 that's not. I have 1 in and 2 not. The kid in school is more emotionally stable, less irritable, less argumentative, happier, more hopeful, joyful in spirit. My sophomore, who's learning from home, is just absolutely at his wit's end with the stress and lack of social connection. I mean, especially with sports being canceled. He's a straight-A student, and he is now struggling to keep up and stay connected. This has brought him to the point of tears and exasperation multiple times. That's tough to swallow as a father and sit back and not say something. So I urge you to change your approach. We can do this differently. We can do this safely, and we must. We must, or we run the risk of damaging our children and our families further. I mean, the cure on this cannot be worse than the disease, but that's exactly what you're doing and allowing. You're making things worse than they otherwise would be. So I pray that this doesn't fall on deaf ears. I'm a concerned citizen. I'm willing to roll my sleeves up and get in on this with you. We're already doing it in a private school. It's working.
Thank you, sir.
And listen, we are all accountable for the decisions we make. So I'm urging the elected officials on this call to listen.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you spell your last name for the record, please?
Yes, sir. Yates. Y-A-T-E-S.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to provide public testimony this afternoon in front of the Board of Health?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I've heard 5 yeses. So let's begin with the first yes. Okay.
My name is Erica Wall. I live in East Olympia. I'm the parent of 4 kids that attend Bush Middle School and Tumwater High School. And we are strongly advocating for a return to school. After reaching out to local pediatric healthcare professionals, I received the following email from Carrie M. Hamilton at Olympia Therapy. Her specialty includes children, adolescents, and families. And she said, quote, some families feel that because they are able to keep working, pay their bills, and have a roof over their heads, that they are not experiencing trauma. We are in a global pandemic. This is societal trauma. Due to COVID-19, all children are under increased stress and are in fact experiencing a traumatic event due to the length of time this pandemic has stretched. This leads to depression and anxiety in children as young as 2 with increased rates at ages 6 and above. Right now, the disruption to our routine, the uncertainty and unpredictability of our environment, and the information we are receiving is disrupting our emotional balance, creating stress, and stressed out brains cannot learn. He continued, presently, 1 in 6 children nationally have a mental health challenge, anxiety and depression mostly. Our local referral rates have skyrocketed. Locally, 1 in 3 adolescents over the age of 4 is experiencing clinical anxiety and depression. Let me repeat that last statistic. The clinical anxiety and depression rate for American children is 1 in 6. Here in Washington State, Thurston County specifically, we are double the national average. 1 of 3 children over the age of 4, is experiencing depression. 1 in 3. I have 4 children. I do not like those odds. Excuse me. The suicide rate for children aged 8 and older is going up. This is a continuation of her letter. Over the last couple of years, average suicide rates are at about 3 to 5 in our area per year. Already since March, we have 15 in Thurston County that I am aware of, the youngest being 10 years old. So I'm very concerned that parents are not taking the emotional distress of our children seriously. In addition, I called 2 local pediatric offices. They reported that children under the age of 19 account for 15% of the total cases here, but only 2% of hospitalizations and 0% of the deaths. And when we pit those numbers against the rising number of mental health challenges the kids in this community are facing, it looks more and more like the best thing for kids is to send them to school. Thank you for your time.
My name is Katie.
Thank you. Please mute yourself. The next person, please.
My name is Katie Manning, and I'm a resident of Olympia near Black Lake. I'm joining this meeting today to request your help to do more to protect and develop the youth in our community and get them back to school. I work in education, and I hear daily of the increase in suicide, the typically excellent students in tears and breaking down, the increase in failing rates, and the hopelessness the youth and parents in our community feel, and you're hearing that on this call. It's time to chart a new course. We are several months into this pandemic, and it is clear it is not going to just go away. And work needs to be done to get our students safely back to learning and socializing in person. We just can't wait for things to get better. It's also clear that schools can and do open safely, even in a climate worse than rates our county is experiencing. Countless studies have come out of France, Sweden, and the United States showing how safely schools can open and students can thrive. Also noteworthy is the fact that in England, the country is considering a new lockdown, but is already planning to exempt schools from this order. A study by Brown University has found there is minimal evidence the virus is transferring inside K-12 school buildings. COVID-19 cases recorded in their dashboard show an extremely small degree of spread among staff and students. The study looked at data collected from more than 550 schools across 46 states over a 2-week period starting August 31st, with more than 300 schools maintaining some level of in-person classes. The rate for confirmed cases was 0.076% for students and 0.1% for teachers. The data included those for public and private schools, with many of these schools located in smaller communities. We have private schools in Thurston County that have done the work to set up safe learning environments, including new desk arrangements, morning temperature checks, weekly family health screenings, masks, sanitizing, social distancing, and more. We owe it to all of the students in Thurston County to do the same work to create a safe learning environment for all students. In addition, we have the Boys and Girls Club, daycares, sports groups, and students without internet connectivity gathering in groups daily on our school campuses. The Boys and Girls Club provides daycare in school buildings. They are allowed up to 22 children in each room for daycare purposes, but our students can't go there to learn. With 38 students in our county sending their kids back to school to some degree, the students in our state and our county are falling more behind each day. I've lived in Washington State for almost 40 years, and this is the most critical issue I've seen our county face, yet I know we can partner to find success. We just need to come together and do the work. That is why I'm here. I'm here to seek your partnership to get the tools and proper recommendations to our school districts, and to ask that you communicate better to those in the community the reasons behind the continued recommendations for ongoing virtual learning. Citing case counts per 100,000 is not enough to justify keeping schools remote without also balancing suicide rates, death rates, transmission rates in school-age kids, mental health statistics, and more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
My name is Frank DeRocher. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Introduce yourself.
I live in the city of Olympia. I'm a community leader and a parent of 2 kids in the Olympia School District. I've already been heavily involved in the McKinney Elementary PTO as a former president and volunteer. I have a similar cause to many others on this call before me, so I don't have a lot to add without repeating what's already been said. And I trust that you guys are well tuned into statistics and approaches that are happening all around the world. But I just want to implore the Board of Health to allow us to find ways, even creative ways, to get our kids back in school for the sake of their mental health. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Next.
My name is Renee Terry. I am a parent in the Little Rock area in the Tumwater School District. I am a parent of 3 children. I have 1 in elementary and 2 high school. I would also just like to, echo the comments of everybody else and the statistics. I think it's something that we need to stop and we need to take a look at. Like you said, the damage is doing more than COVID itself. I have
joining the conference.
My elementary school child, he has always been a phenomenal student. He is struggling. He is failing 3 out of 6 subjects currently. I have a freshman in high school, again, has always been a straight A student, and she is struggling. The frustrations every day that she is experiencing, she is shutting down. Sorry. I see my high schooler, my junior, who has had, hopes and dreams of attending college. He's not able to take his SATs. He's got classmates that are failing. They're getting college opportunities are being taken away. That's their future. These kids are our future. We're going to be looking to them to take care of us someday. And we are taking away their education. We have got to look at a better way to do this, and I just urge you all to take a look at that and take a look at the bigger picture other than the number of cases per 1,000 or 100,000 and say that that is the deciding factor going forward. There is way more into this that needs to be looked at than just a number. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Hello, my name is Jamie Downing. And I live in Olympia and have 4 kids. And I am also on this call to urge the health officer and the commissioners to reconsider the case rate of 75 cases per 100,000 to not be the high-end number for hybrid instruction any longer. I am requesting that you reevaluate the case rate metrics to give kids a chance to go back to school. Oregon, Colorado, Illinois, Arizona, they all have less restrictive metrics. And I'm asking that the 75 number be reevaluated. COVID, unfortunately, is not going away. We must figure out how to live with it. If we don't get below 75 by this coming fall, we will certainly have to open up schools then for the well-being of the future generation. Wouldn't you agree with that? And if so, why not now? Why not reevaluate that number now, which is hindering hundreds of thousands of kids from going back to school? I plead that emphasis would be paid toward kids' social and emotional and mental health and well-being. Many Thurston County kids have died to suicide since the beginning of the shutdown. 15 of our Thurston County kids have died to suicide since the beginning of the shutdown. Going back to school matters. Getting kids out of isolation off screens with adult supervision and engaging with others matters. Depression is up, and there's no denying that being at home has been damaging to our youth. I understand the Department of Health argument for keeping kids at home in full distance learning is asking if we want to kill grandma and grandpa. That question is offensive to even ask because, of course, nobody fighting for our kids wants to kill grandma and grandpa. No one wants that. Nor do I know a grandparent who wants their children's lives to consist of their 4 walls without meaningful interaction. They, of course, want them to have the best learning experience they can. At the same time, I don't know of a grandparent who is locking themselves in their own home. If older people are doing that, that's their choice, and that's great if it works for them. But why are we punishing our youth, not giving them, nor us as parents, a choice? Please put more of an emphasis on the importance of the social and emotional well-being as well, because we know that learning in schools in person is best for them. This week I interviewed Dr. Stephen Wilson, who's a licensed social worker, and he has a PhD who works locally in Olympia. He absolutely believes that creating a team of people who will come alongside the health department and take an honest look at the social and emotional needs of the kids is vital. He says there's no way you can't see the inequalities and inequities the distance learning model has created in our communities. We can be innovative if we work together. Dr. Stephen Wilson believes we can figure it out safely. The question will be how, but he and I believe this community is capable of doing this for our youth. He sees firsthand increased depression playing out and what isolation has done to the youth. They can't learn because either the systems used aren't working for the majority, and also because parents are not equipped while they're doing their own jobs to manage their kids' entire school day. Giving them something to protect as theirs would also increase their youth's desire to not want to spread the virus. If given the chance to go back to school and give them the chance to play sports and do the activities they love, don't you think they want to fight to protect and to stay safe and healthy?
Ma'am, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Yeah, I'll go. My name's Mark Boyer. I'm an Olympia resident. I've got 4 children, 3 in elementary school, and then 1 that's about a year and a half. I really hope Dr. A is listening and hears the pain of parents and the plea and desperation that we offer you to reconsider your metrics and reconsider what is most important here. I find it incredibly hypocritical and concerning that we have prioritized certain things in our community over the education of our children. When the first shutdowns occurred, there were businesses considered essential. I can go to Costco and be shoulder to shoulder with 300 people, but my son in 4th grade and daughter in 2nd grade can't be in a classroom with proper protocols with 15 classmates. Give families the chance to emphasize the education and not over a computer screen. We are fully aware by now that that does not work. And for my family, we chose homeschool as a path because we didn't trust the school district to navigate the new charters that they faced. And that is not a solution that we prefer, but it's the only one left for us to feel like our kids are getting the direction that they need and the education that they deserve. So what I would like to see is some accountability. I have tried personally to reach out to Dr. A and others at the health department to get some clarity and feedback and in a civil and constructive way. And what I got was exactly what Jamie just referenced, an individual calling me in response to an email that I had sent in hopes of response from Dr. A and giving me the example of my children going to school and killing their grandkids or grandparents. It was so insulting. My 18-month-old son doesn't even know his grandparents because we've been told we need to socially distance and stay clear of those maybe at higher risk. We've done the mask mandates. We've done all these things, and yet our case levels are still going up. So I ask, and I think there was a point earlier, the solution cannot be bigger than the original problem. Right now, our solutions aren't working. So let's live our lives. Let's get our kids back to school and get them the education that they deserve and the opportunity to be around others and live a healthy lifestyle. It is imperative to our community, and I ask you to reconsider all of your metrics. Get our kids back to school.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who would like to provide public testimony this afternoon?
Yes, my name is Courtney Castro. We reside in the East
Has
Olympia.
left the conference.
We reside in the East Olympia area. I want to preface what I'm about to say by sharing that COVID hit my family early on in this pandemic. In April, we lost a loved one. I'm in no way intending to minimize the seriousness of COVID, but I do believe reopening schools safely can happen. For years, I've worked with families struggling. I ran programs that were funded by the No Child Left Behind Act. So many children who often rely on school buildings, and more importantly, the caring staff in those buildings, are their only safe place and their only safe adults. Part of my job has been connecting those families with mental health support and making it clear to them that reaching out for mental health services is nothing to be embarrassed about, and that it's just as important as a physical exam. Mental health concerns seem to be lost on so many right now. The idea that children are in isolation, many at home all day long by themselves working on their Chromebooks, and for some students in their cars, this is a failure on our part. This is nothing short of adults failing our children. There has to be choices for families. My husband and I have 3 children, one at elementary, one middle, and one high school. So we are seeing firsthand how it's affecting each age level. I often hear a little laughter from my youngest child because thankfully she already had a connection with her teacher from last year and she is able to somewhat function. But my older
has left the conference.
Are quiet, their desks usually are silent, and they are completely overwhelmed. This is not normal. This is, in my opinion, detrimental to our future generations. I urge the decision makers in our county to please consider and learn from areas where hybrid is working so children in our area can thrive. All children, in my opinion, are being left behind. This is not a criticism of educators because I believe that the majority of teachers are doing everything they can. In fact, one of my son's coaches, who is also a teacher at Tumwater High School, spends countless hours on his own time reaching out to kids to make sure they're okay. And for my son, those connections mean everything. Our kids need and deserve so much better. Please consider reopening schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to provide public testimony this afternoon?
Yes. My name is Vashti Gustafson.
Go ahead. You have.
Need me to spell that?
Yeah, please.
Voshte.
Thank you.
Last name Gustafson.
Thank you, ma'am. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. I am the mother of 2 kids, a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. My husband and I both work.
Has left the conference.
Both work full-time. So the reality of saying you don't want grandma and grandpa to get it, grandma and grandpa are the ones that are helping educate our kids right now. They are the ones with them doing the Zoom calls because we have a business to run. So what I've experienced from remote learning is a huge decline in interest, motivation, and loneliness. I'm urging us to look at the models of schools that are operating in this state, which include public and private schools. The models seem to be working, and there are places in Seattle, Thurston County, Meade, Spokane, and Yakima, which have kids going to school. When I mention this to parents, they're shocked. They don't realize that some schools are actually open because this is not out there and the parents are not informed. I believe we can do it safely. We are breaking the spirit of the kids and families here. We're not hearing the voices of single parents, caregivers, or parents that work because most of us are too busy to join these discussions at times. So I request a public hearing or more answers on why we are not opening and to share this information with all the parents or caregivers out there that need this. These schools that are doing this are making it work, and these kids, from what we have heard, are having good experiences. You can hear all the emotion from the parents on these calls, including myself. We've had enough. It's tough, and we really need your help. These kids need to get back to school. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to provide public testimony this afternoon?
Yes. Yes, thank you. My name is Lindsay Moss. I reside in Thurston County in Olympia. In your last letter to the community, the end of it really struck a chord when you said that we don't know the long-term effects of COVID-19. I don't think we will know those effects for many years to come. So it's your intention to keep us controlled and the kids shut down until we do. There are many effects happening now with our children in the county. pediatricians, and health practitioners, as you've heard so far, are seeing a rise in anxiety, depression, obesity, and sadly suicide. There have been more deaths from suicide in our youth than COVID-19, yet we continue to keep schools closed. There is more to health than physical health. Social and emotional health has been left out of the equation. It wasn't until July that you started allowing sports, when cases in the county were extremely low from March until the end of June. That is almost 4 months of no physical activity. Yet when we saw a rise in cases last month, soccer games were canceled. Our soccer games among the youth where high transmission was occurring, yet big businesses were allowed to carry on as usual. I am tired of our children suffering the most, even though COVID-19 will affect them the least. There is many research has shown that children are not super spreaders. I can provide you with that in email later of all the research since April, March, from all over the world that says this and supports this. Our district spent all summer coming up with a plan to bring kids and staff back safe, but you guys are continuing to shut them down. I am disappointed you did not let the school year start on a hybrid model and even give it a shot, not for even the day, to see how we could control the situation. I am a kindergartner that has no frame of reference for what her school day is supposed to be like, and I have to work with her one-on-one constantly. I have a second grader, a seventh grader, and a 12th grader as well. My 12th grader may not see his school year based on what you guys are saying. We are not going to see a decline if we can control it up until this point. They have different schedules and learning needs that are not being met. I would like us to follow Lewis County and putting our children first and getting them back to school as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to provide public testimony? Hearing none, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, this is Kylie Gustafson. I'm a parent of two kids at Griffin, in unincorporated Thurston County.
Can you spell your last name, sir?
Just want to do it.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Sure. It's Gustafson.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to our comments. Obviously, you can hear from a lot of the pain and anguish and emotion that's coming out, both for me and a lot of the other parents that I've talked. This is important to us, and we need you guys to realize that we need our kids back to school for all the reasons, and I don't need to go over them again. The detriment that this has caused our kids. I'm seeing my son struggle, who is an A student, struggle with online Zoom classes that don't work. This is not working for our kids. This is not working for our community. This is not working for our parents. And we need you to realize all these essential businesses are open. This is essential for our kids. And the only way we can do that is with your recommendations, because our school districts obviously are basing their decisions on your recommendations. So you need to reevaluate what you're doing for COVID, because it's not just about COVID, it's about everything else too. So please take that recommendation to heart, and when you're making your decision, and let our kids go back to school. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? One more time, is there anybody else? Hearing none, thank you so much.
Okay, I want to thank the county manager for helping the phone. We haven't had so many phone comments before, so that's, and I really thank everybody's patience for staying on the phone and, you know, and being able to get all that information through to the board. And just to say to the board, you have the entire, you have the ears of the entire leadership of your county public health team, and Dr. Abdul Malik is listening intently, as is Shelley Slaughter, our Director of Public Health, and the three members of the Board of Health. So we heard you, and I'm sure we will be discussing further everything that was discussed today. So,
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Could I make a comment, please, or a suggestion?
Sure.
you all know that I've often commented that I don't understand how the bureaucratic process can delay so long on such important topics. And I see that we're going to be canceling a budget meeting on Friday morning. And I would like to make a motion that we make the proper announcement to make it legal and have an emergency meeting of the Board of Health Friday morning at 9 o'clock so that we can discuss this in a timely fashion, because otherwise I'm afraid it's going to linger on until, 2 weeks from now when we have a regular scheduled meeting or something. We all know this is a very hot topic that needs to be addressed. I'm not saying we're going to come up with an immediate solution, but if we adjourn this meeting without setting another meeting right now, I think we're falling down on the job. So I'm going to make that motion and see if I get a second.
Well, I agree.
Okay.
May I?
Yeah.
I agree with my seatmate about the urgency. We've been hearing this. I've got 6 grandkids, one with special needs and also a paraeducator for special needs kids. So it's very hard, it's close to my heart too. But I'm not going to second a motion because we're not making a motion, I don't think. Well, a motion being made. If we do something, I'm not sure of the logistics of convening something like that and all the rules and regulations regarding a special meeting and what staff's availability is. So I don't want to rush to judgment if it's not practical to do so. So I would have to leave that to staff to sort that out. And I'm not opposed to it, but setting a date and time right now, I think it's just, we can't do that. I think it's not possible to do.
Mr. Chair, could I make one more suggestion?
Sure.
I'm going to say that this is typically what we fight every day when we try to get something done in a timely fashion for the citizens of Thurston County. I'm not saying we have to come up with a solution, but when are we going to talk about this in a sincere and dedicated way if we don't do it pretty damn quick? That's all. That's what I'm saying here. So I think we have time to make the legal notification. We're canceling a budget session anyway. Let's kind of talk about this and see if we can't come up with a solution. So the motion stands. I'm making a motion. If we don't get a second, I don't get a second. But.
Well, we can direct county manager to do something and look into it. But
I want to do something. I want to set a time and get it done, get it rolling. Let's get her done.
Okay, so there's a motion, hasn't been seconded. I'm going to pipe in with just questions. I might be willing to second the motion. I guess, obviously, Shelley and Dr. Abdul-Malik would have to be part of that meeting. So I guess my first question is, if there was a Board of Health meeting on Friday, are the two of you able to accommodate that?
We can post 24 hours in advance.
That would be my next question for the county manager. Let me just hear from Dr. Abdul-Malik first.
So I do have some time available on Friday.
Is it confined to one particular time window, or you could make time on a variable window?
So timing for me would be best in the morning.
Okay. It sounds like the board has become available. Shelley, what do you think about Friday morning for a discussion on this topic?
We're happy to accommodate whatever the board prefers. I'm happy to prepare and attend a briefing on this topic. We do have regular meetings scheduled on Friday with our hospital executive teams as well as others, but we're happy to move things around to accommodate the board's schedule.
So those meetings would be flexible versus, or do you want to suggest a time if this board were to, it sounds like we're pretty open because we had some things clear with the budget. So is there a time that would work best for you, Shelley, without having to slide things around more than necessary?
If at all possible, sir, it would be great if we could take some time to look at our schedules and get back to the board immediately following this meeting. But yes, we can make ourselves available on Friday morning. I just don't have the ability to quickly look at my calendar and Dr. Abdamalik's calendar at this moment.
I would second the Commissioner Edwards' motion to have a special Board of Health meeting on Friday morning at a time within the morning to be determined as soon as possible, practicable. Is that satisfactory to the intent of your motion, Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do we want to discuss this motion beyond
Yes.
any other comments or discussion? Commissioner Hutchins?
Yes, I'm in favor of it. It was just, I wanted to right here at the moment commit all the staff not knowing their schedules and not knowing the specific requirements we are held to with the RCW regarding special meetings, emergency meetings, 48 hours notice in the paper, the website. I don't want to get jacked up legally. I just want to make sure we have sufficient time to get this noticed so the public can attend if they wish.
That's where I turn to the county manager. It seemed like, Ramiro, you said that we would be
Yeah, the question, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I heard you say we could get this properly noticed for Friday.
Yes, the obstacle is tomorrow's a holiday. So, and we don't know what time the meeting, since Shirley and Dr. Abdamalik don't know the specific time. So I will recommend for Shirley to check her schedule right after this meeting and touch base with the Board of Health clerk, Lydia Hutchinson, to be specifically start announcing hopefully tonight to send a notice, and we reinforce that on Thursday morning. And the obstacle is tomorrow is a holiday.
I would be willing to work tomorrow myself.
It has nothing to do with it. Don't be daft.
I got it
Don't have
to me.
nothing to do with it. It's still a holiday whether you work it or not.
Get everybody in here and let's get to going. Bureaucratic stuff drives me nuts.
It will not work tomorrow morning, Commissioner.
Well, okay. How about this, Chair? If we set it at the nearest possible date that we can legally do so. Maybe it can't be Friday because of some bureaucratic regulation, but maybe we can at least have it Monday. It's a hell of a lot better than 2 weeks from now.
Okay, well, so you're sounds like you're withdrawing the earlier motion, making a new motion to have special Board of Health meeting at the earliest practicable time based on the schedules of the health officer, health director, and the Board of Health members.
Yes, sir, that would be fine. Thank you.
I think that's an even better motion. I'm going to second it. And any discussion of that motion?
I just want to add, I'm going to vote for that, but I just want to add one comment that I've heard it a couple of times this evening in public comment, that the Board of Health directs Dr. Abdamalik as to policy, and we clearly don't do that. We clearly don't tell the county health officer what to do and what not to do and how to set the rules. But I'm in favor of that motion.
Yeah, I appreciate that comment, Commissioners, because it seems to me on the overall comments to be a misunderstanding that the Board of Health directs the Dr. Abdamalik as to how she needs to provide the direction. The Board of Health hires a professional, and she has a medical license in which she got us through this pandemic. And I do believe there is as difficult as it is on her shoulders to provide that direction. So if the intent is for the Board of Health to start influencing the decision-making process, I strongly encourage you to think twice about that.
I got that down. We've been through it.
And I just, I would say that having listened to everybody very carefully, it might be that some folks had that impression, but I think other folks understood that Dr. Abdamalik was here, or that this was a way for them to address the county health officer. So, I mean, I think because some folks definitely made comments directly addressed to our health officer. And so I think that's something we can clarify in our discussion at this proposed special meeting.
I would love to have this be a very productive meeting and an orderly meeting, so it doesn't end up just being an attack or a beat up on either our Director of Public Health and Social Services or Dr. Abdamalik. it's okay to be emotional and give out information and how it's impacting such. But as long as we can get to some type of an agenda that makes sense, that allows for everybody to have input and for our staff to hear the input, that's productive.
I guess a question I have is whether or not this meeting will be inviting additional public comment, or if it's more about the board and our health leadership discussing the comment we just heard, because it could be a different dynamic depending on. Was your intent, Commissioner Edwards, that we had hear additional public comment?
Well, let me just follow up on that. My phone number has been in the book for 40 years. I can tell you this is the hottest topic that I have ever been talked to about. And I'll just say over the last month, I've had probably 24 calls at my residence on my home phone of parents calling and wanting something done about it. That's why I am such an advocate that we do something. I'm not here looking for scalps. I'm here to come up with a solution that addresses the community's need. And yes, I think we probably will at a special meeting get more public comment, but I think that's the community's right to be able to communicate with us. I don't know how many citizens out there feel they can call their county commissioner at home. I've been available. I accept those calls. I answer that phone. And so I have to say, I think it's the best way. Just conduct a regular special meeting as soon as we can, allow public comment. You can all see what's going on here. This is not something new. I've been hearing about it for months now. So I just think it's time. And it bugs me about waiting. I'm not a very good bureaucrat, that's for sure.
Well, you're not very patient.
I'm not very patient either.
How about this? Special meeting takes specific requirements for public notification and agenda, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, okay, all that stuff, bureaucratic stuff. What about a work session where we've got our sleeves rolled up and we're talking with staff and asking questions and being a work session rather than a special? I don't know if that's much different.
That could be more productive.
It's lower key.
It could be more productive. I'm open to anything that gets the ball rolling.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I understand, and I think you have got a very good flavor of the comments from the parents today.
Yes.
Additional testimony is just going to reinforce what you heard today in a very passionate, very emotional way, describing their current situation. If there is a briefing, I think it will be good for you to gather all this information that you received today and start having a conversation with Shelley and Dr. Alden-Malik and see where it goes. I think that might be a more productive way to use the time.
Mr. Chair, I would adjust my motion to so reflect the county manager's suggestion, because all I want to do is do something that we get the ball rolling here.
That'd be a good productive use of
that
time.
Could very well be more productive, the same as Commissioner Hutchings brought up. I'm for it as soon as we can do it, but let's do it quickly.
But not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
I guess not.
You can come in if you want.
Yeah, I can. I know.
I agree with those comments. There are certain issues where folks have come in and they've just had all kinds of different angles, and it's really good to hear that. This was an issue where we heard a lot of passion, but it was very clear what the argument was and what the concern was. And so I kind of agree that I know that another hour's worth of community members could come in and say the same thing. I know folks are there. I don't necessarily need to hear more of the same. And I also agree that having a work session could be more productive because we can get kind of right to brass tacks in terms of the questions that were asked by folks, which is wanting to hear about the metrics and what the parameters are and what the options might be. But, so what I'm hearing is a withdrawal of the previous motion. We have not voted on any of these yet. Commissioner Edwards is withdrawing the previous motion, making a slightly modified motion to have a special Board of Health work session on this topic at the earliest possible time based on scheduling constraints. And do I have a second to that motion?
You do. But sir, would you please explain to the viewers that they're going to be able to observe this meeting, all of our meetings we have open to the public. We have it on YouTube, on our county website. So we'll be very transparent.
Correct.
And the boardroom is open for up to 6 members of the public.
But they can watch remotely.
Mr. Chair?
And that's, even though some have suggested otherwise, that is why I'm sitting here in my office, is just to provide that extra, that's one of the reasons, is just to provide that extra space for a member of the public to attend in person if that's what they feel they'd like to do.
Thank you, sir.
The motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but I just want to discuss or have a question of the county manager. If we have a work session, does that have to be also, is there a time for a work session that has to be announced and all that?
24 hours.
Yeah, we need to
24 hours.
announce it, and as soon as feasible, we'll make sure that your meeting is legal.
Okay, so my question was, do we need to have a motion and all that in second, or just direct you to do it?
Yeah, well, Commissioner Mensah exercised his right to introduce a motion. That's the discussion at this point.
All right, got it.
I'm supporting Commissioner Mensah on this.
I'm turning back to you, Chair.
Well, I was just stating Commissioner Edwards' motion.
Right.
Yep.
So, I guess that's why Commissioner Edwards was trying to second it. No, I was restating the motion for you, Commissioner Edwards, and I think I got it right.
Okay.
And Commissioner Batista seconded it.
Yep.
And do we have any further comment? Robin, were you waving a hand?
I was just going to second what Romero was saying. Regardless of the type of meeting you conduct, it requires 24 hours notice and an agenda.
So we'll work it through.
That's easy. Good.
Okay. Well, we will work on through those details. With those clarifications, all in favor of this motion, say aye.
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 And
Okay, that motion,
sir, could I just make one real quick statement?
Sure.
Thank you to the chair and the vice chair for bringing me down off the ceiling and get us somewhere that starts this process going. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, well, that's one of the luxuries we have as a 3-person board, is to be able to kind of have more of that discussion in a slightly looser fashion than you might be able to do with 7 or 5. But, well, it is now 5:23 and we have yet to move into our substantive items. Shelley, I'm going to turn to you for a moment. And I'm going to ask for your advice and counsel here. I am able to keep this meeting going. I don't know about other members of your team. And if there are items that you feel, I know we have an item of business, a contract item that should be probably addressed at a minimum. Katie's here and Chris is here. I want to be respectful of them, but I also want to be respectful of the staff and my seatmates, and whether or not, we should try to proceed through the entire agenda, keep the item shorter, or defer something to next month.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe that the staff are prepared to present to you. We have 3 presentations. I think we can move through it pretty quickly if the board is able to extend the meeting, and then we can abbreviate our normal health officer and director reports and defer that to a future meeting or standing update.
Is that acceptable to my seatmates?
Well, kind of yes and no. I don't mind the presentation, but what I don't want to get cut short is Dr. Abdulmalik or Director Slaughter's comments, because those are the ones that are vital to the conversation.
Yeah.
Not addressing what you've heard in public comment, but whatever you may have to add to the updated report and such, maybe very applicable.
If I may, let me just look at your combined schedule.
Or we can put on.
You do have an invitation to participate on the League of Women's Voters Forum this afternoon at 6 o'clock. So, and I don't know who from the board members is planning to attend that meeting. So that perhaps creates a conflict. If I can provide a suggestion, maybe the department items, there is a presentation, could be delayed to next month.
Yeah,
Both the presentations on the opioid as well as the climate change.
opioid and climate change, and then get right into the Board of Health, health reports.
All right, let's do that. And if we could, if we could finish by 6, that would, I think would be enough for today, given what we've had. I was planning to attend the water forum. I don't mind to miss that, but I also have other conflicts this evening. So, okay, let's go to department item 3, amendment number 3 to the Lewis County contract for purchase of Nurse Family Partnership Health Services. Let's get that done.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gretchen Toller. I'm the Maternal Child Health Nurse Family Partnership Manager at
Thank you for
Thurston County.
coming. Thank you.
Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I am here seeking approval to amendment number 3 to the Lewis County Nurse Family Partnership contract for the amount of $309,822.25. And this amendment allows our Nurse Family Partnership Program to continue providing services to 50 clients in Lewis County, and it extends this contract through December 31st of 2021.
Any questions for Gretchen on this item? We've reviewed it at 2 board meetings.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve and authorize the Director of Thurston County Public Health and Social Services to sign amendment number 3 to the Lewis County contract for the purchase of Nurse Family Partnership Health Services in the amount of $309,822.25 for the calendar year of 2021.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this item?
No.
No, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to apologize to Katie Strozik and Chris Hawkins, who've been waiting patiently. You guys will be on our board agenda for December. And we're going to move directly to item number 6, Board of Health members, health-related activities. Commissioner Edwards, anything to report there?
No, I think I'm going to forego any of my report activity. I'm good to go with the health officer's report coming up sooner rather than later.
Ditto.
Commissioner Hutchins.
Yep, the same.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have been able to attend several things, but it's nothing necessarily needs exposition here at this meeting. Let's go to the health officer's report. Dr. Abdulmalik.
Good evening, Board of Health and Commissioners. It is unfortunate this evening that I am going to tell you that we had 62 cases in the 24-hour period between noon yesterday and noon today that were reported to us. This is the most we've had since the pandemic began in a single day. Only 4 of these deaths are currently thought to be associated with the long-term care outbreaks that we continue to manage across our county.
Your connection got frozen, Dr. A.
Yeah, you froze. Or you're faking it.
We'll give Dr. Abdulmalik a moment. I believe Dr. Abdulmalik was referring to 4 cases associated with long-term care outbreaks, not deaths.
Out of the 62, only 4 cases from, okay.
Correct.
I'm not sure she's going to come back.
Maybe she can reconnect, yeah.
Yeah, she checked out.
Just give her just a minute because she's logged off and probably will be logging right back on.
I thought she was going to
Oh,
sneeze.
sorry.
In the meantime, you want to move on with Shelley's report, Mr. Chair?
Sure. Go ahead, Shelley. Let's go with the director's report.
Okay, good evening, commissioners. I will actually expand upon what I believe was some of the information Dr. Abdelmalek was about to share. Oh, she is back. Do you want to have Dr. Abdelmalek continue?
Yeah, let's do that. Welcome back, Dr. A. You froze up on us, and just pick up wherever you thought you left off there. You're muted.
I think she stopped with from noon to noon, 62 cases.
Okay, we've had 62 cases reported between noon yesterday and noon today. And this is the most we've had in a 24-hour period since the pandemic began. Only 4 of these are known to be related to long-term care outbreaks, of which we are currently managing 11 at this time. Our community transmission rate has significantly increased, and we're seeing more workplace outbreaks as well as outbreaks in our long-term care facilities. And there's greater potential for outbreaks in congregate settings as well, where people come together. We're currently at 96.6 cases per 100,000 in our population over the past 14 days, and have been in the high transmission zone on the governor's risk dashboard since October 23rd. It's going to take all of us and our community here in Thurston County a lot of work to continue to do our part to bring down our transmission rates. This includes the same things that we've been talking about since the beginning of masking, maintaining 6 feet of distance, staying home when sick, and staying home when instructed to do so by public health, as well as respiratory etiquette and hand hygiene. Last Friday, I made the difficult decision in alignment with the Department of Health K-12 decision tree to recommend a return to remote learning because of this, because of the elevated transmission rates in our county, the increasing number of outbreaks, as well as the increased number of COVID cases in our hospitals and our public health capacity for response. At this time, we are looking at data statewide and nationwide to make sure that the guidance that we're following as a county and as a state is the most up-to-date that it can be. It's up to each of us in our county to continue to do our part to reduce the spread of COVID-19. I did want to transition a little bit to some good news that we're hearing, some hopeful news, and that is the news of a potential vaccine from Pfizer, which essentially is a messenger RNA based vaccine. This is a vaccine that does require 2 doses and does require specialized refrigeration because it needs to be cooled to an extremely low temperature to remain viable and stable. There are a few weeks before Pfizer can apply for an EUA from the FDA, meaning that we still have some time before and a lot more data to look at before this potential vaccine would be available, and then even more time for production to ramp up. We're anticipating that if the vaccine is found to be safe and effective both by the FDA and by our state, we may have we may have doses available in the coming months. This at this point, this will not likely be enough for everyone. The current projection is that 15 to 20 courses, because this is a 2-dose vaccine, would be available in the first few months, of which a much smaller portion would end up, if found safe and effective, available to Washington State. So that would mean prioritizing. We would all have to come together as a state and as a county. At this time, we're looking to prioritize folks, healthcare workers, essential workers, and folks at the highest risk of severe consequences. But all of this is fluid. This is all preliminary planning that we're undertaking in conjunction with our State Department of Health. But this is a bright spot of news in our COVID response, and I am cautiously optimistic about what this will mean going forward. We were asked earlier today about contact tracing, which should help extend our public health efforts in the COVID fight. Apple and Google have partnered to create an app, or on iPhones, it would be a setting that you would enable, or a person would enable, that uses Bluetooth and changing unique identifiers on phones, as well as the ability to tell, for the phones themselves, to tell if they were in close proximity to another phone. And then if one of those people with the phone tested positive for COVID-19 and opted into this program, the other person would get a notification that they were exposed to COVID-19, and it's an opportunity for public health departments to intervene and provide information. This is purely voluntary, and especially with kind of the changing independent codes that each phone is sending to beacons. Privacy is clearly the first priority, and the data will be deleted after the purpose of helping individuals determine who their close contacts have been met. This is an exciting new development in our fight against COVID-19 and bringing transmission rates back down to a reasonable level. While COVID-19 has understandably taken a significant amount of our time, we continue to work on other communicable diseases, with more than 160 other cases investigated in the past month, including cases of Shigella, tick-borne illness, cryptosporidium, coccidiomycosis, and many, as well as many other diseases. So while we're focused on COVID and keeping our community safe and partnering with our community in terms of helping each person to do what they need to do to help their families and community break cycles of transmission and stay safe and healthy, we're also continuing to do all of the other functions of a public health department as well, including investigating other diseases as well as other essential programming. At this time, I'm happy to answer any specific questions you may have. Thank you.
Questions for Dr. A. Commissioner Hutchings?
My questions are just kind of a foreshadowing for Friday morning. You don't have to answer them now. But regarding the Apple and whatever company it was with the phone app?
Google.
Google. My question will be, you don't have to answer any of these now, Doc. When people use that, will it make for a more healthier way to relax restrictions, or will it cause complacency? Number two, the decision tree that you use along with the school process would be very helpful to lay out perhaps Friday morning, because a lot of people don't understand what that is. And then number three is, I don't know what the state OPI or Chris Reichdahl is doing regarding this. If he's, I don't know what kind of leadership role he's taken, or just said that I'm leaving it all to local jurisdictions, period, I don't know. But to have, maybe perhaps how he has weighed in on this topic would be good to put out as well. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Edwards, did you have specific questions needed to be answered today from Dr. A?
I have just a quick one, because we've got so many people that are deemed sick. I take it that's because they tested positive. But how many are sick? When we get 100, 96 or something that tested, whatever it was, how many of them are really sick? Some are, I realize some are asymptomatic, some are sniffles, some are a little bit of it. I mean, does one of these people have to go to the hospital, or none of them, or a half a person? How does it work? What's the metric that you use when determining how bad this is? I realize anybody can spread it, but I'm becoming to believe more and more that we're all going to get it. But some people that get it are going to get it a lot worse than others, and others aren't even going to know they got it. So at what point do we prioritize, in this case that we've heard this evening, you know, with where do we start prioritizing our young people's overall well-being versus keep grandma and grandpa at home if that's what they want to do? I'm trying to figure it out.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. One of the amazing responsibilities entrusted to me as health officer is that I've gone from seeing one patient at a time to being responsible for over 291,000 patients across our county. So from the very young to the very old. In terms of what we're seeing at the hospital level, there has been an increase in hospitalizations and an increase in deaths that have come on with this wave. So we're seeing an increased percentage of hospital beds in our hospitals being occupied by COVID-19 patients. And yeah, we've seen an uptick in the number of COVID-related deaths. It's one of the things that I know we have spoken about in the past is how this disease affects different people differently. And while there are some predictors, so age, other comorbidities, there are definitely folks that defy that pattern and end up much more severely ill than one would expect. Just looking at their demographic data. I'm happy to try to crunch some hospital rate numbers and bring those to our next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
But you asked the question, how many are tested sick or reported sick?
Yeah, but are really sick.
Really sick. So if you test 10 and they all come back positive, that equals 10. Doesn't equal 6 or 5, it equals 10.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just trying to figure how many are really sick. That's...
So all sick, so that's different variations.
I know, there's different levels of sickness, you might say. And at some point, we're going to have to make a decision, because I don't think the vaccine is going to be available for the general population until next fall, maybe, by the time it gets here. Like some of these folks said tonight, I do believe we're going to have to live with this. And I think the at-threat population is going to need to do everything they can to stay healthy. I think it's incumbent on them to stay home, on them to take proper precautions. The rest of them, I mean, we got to keep everything running here. And so I'm trying to weigh that. That's where I'm coming from on all this. I mean, I'm old fashioned, you know, 50 some years ago, I was fighting communism in the Army. I'm one of them old guys that say better dead than red. Okay? I know a lot of people don't understand it when I say that, but I'm kind of looking at it the same way here. I mean, eventually, are we going to lose 5% of our population or something because of it? That's a big number. But somehow, as a society, we have to continue.
Well, it sounds like a conversation that we're likely to have at the next meeting. Commissioner Hutchings, before Commissioner Edwards came back in, you had kind of threw out some questions that might be topics and I want to throw one on top of that. I heard, this will be easy probably to tell us, but, and you don't have to answer it now, but I heard the public rattled off 5 or 6 counties where they had some open schools. And so, you know, there's 39 counties in Washington. So kind of getting a sense of what is going on around the state with this decision, kind of plays from that decision tree question that Hutch brought up, you know, and the question is, well, what are all the counties doing with that decision tree? You know, Lewis County often does things quite different than Thurston County, but you know, so it'd be interesting to kind of see a more comprehensive kind of layout of that. Would be something that I'd be curious about at the work session. Okay. Anything else before we go to Shelley?
No, sir, I think you're covering it. Thank you.
Okay, director's report. Shelley, thank you.
Thank you so much, commissioners. I actually want to start out with some thank yous. Thank you to the members of the public who spoke today. I look forward to the work session that we will have to further those conversations. Also want to thank our amazing staff who work hard to prepare for presentations such as this and have hung out with us for so long. So we look forward to their presentations next time. And thank you, commissioners, for your flexibility today on our Board of Health schedule. So I will try to keep my report brief in the interest of time, because I know you have some other meetings to get to. But I do want to just expand a little bit on some of Dr. Abdelmalik's report regarding COVID-19. Our department has been very busy with our COVID-19 response. We have had our incident management team activated for 279 days now. We've had over 100 staff and volunteers, not only from our department, but from our other county offices and departments and our community, helping us on this response, and we really appreciate them. You also, as Board of County Commissioners, heard earlier from some of our veterans that have been working on this response. And in light of Veterans Day tomorrow, and with the Veterans Assistance Program being one of our very amazing programs that we offer at Thurston County Public Health and Social Services, I want to extend a special thanks to our veterans who have bravely served their country and continue to serve their country in our county by working on this COVID-19 pandemic response. In light of the rising transmission rates and the alarming 62 cases that we had in just 24 hours, as Dr. Abdelmalik stated today, I just wanted to highlight that one of our important strategies in controlling this pandemic is to encourage people to get tested. We have many testing sites available for people in the community that are drive-through site that Thurston County Public Health supports in partnership with Providence St. Peter Hospitals is experiencing extremely long delays right now. And we want to encourage people to not delay in getting tested if they have been exposed to COVID-19 or they're experiencing any symptoms of COVID-19. But for those that have insurance and a healthcare provider, we encourage you to go to our Thurston County Public Health website and view the various testing sites that are available and call ahead so you can be sure that you can get tested as quickly as possible. I also wanted to share that for people that do get tested and test positive or are on quarantine, our department offers support for basic needs for those on isolation and quarantine. So we encourage those that need it to please let us know if you're contacted by one of our case investigators or contact tracers. With that, I'm going to switch into just providing some information from some of our other divisions. In addition to all the work we're doing on COVID-19, our department continues to work on increasing the health and well-being of our entire community. And we do that through many different divisions and programs. So I'm just going to share some quick updates from our environmental health program. So far in 2020, our solid waste staff have completed 194 site visits, despite the limitations imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. They've worked with property owners and managers to bring 33 sites with solid waste violations into compliance, and 963,000 pounds of solid waste has been removed from these sites. In our housing program, in partnership with Thurston Strong and with the support of the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners, thank you very much for allocating support to our community for rental assistance. Through November, our Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention program has helped to provide resources, over $1.8 million in rental assistance to nearly 600 households. Our Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention also provided an additional $1.6 million in rent and utility assistance funding through the CARES Act to support eviction prevention activities. We've begun work on our 2021 point in time count. You heard a preview of that from Keely Marino, our homeless response coordinator, at an earlier briefing to the Board of Health, as well as at your regular weekly reports from her. So we'll be sharing more about that next month. Also, the Board of County Commissioners has had the chance to hear about this public health and safety issue of vehicles and people living along Ensign Road. And I just wanted to share that the Board of County Commissioners allocated $530,000 of funding to support this effort. And with this being in the Board of Health jurisdiction, I just want to say thank you for your leadership in prioritizing and protecting access to our local hospital, as well as providing support for those residents there to have a safe and healthy living environment. In our other programs, our staff are working on a racial equity plan, which we'll be bringing back to the Board of Health soon. And also our epidemiologist, Marianne O'Garo, continues to update the community by sharing health equity information to various members of our community. We have several presentations planned coming soon. You didn't get to hear Katie Strezik's update today, but you will next time. But just really quickly about our opioid response program. We've received 552 naloxone kits from the Washington State Healthcare Authority, and also trained 44 individuals on overdose education and naloxone administration, including to the Tenino Police Department and Tenino Community Services, who are working on expanding their rural community outreach. Our staff also offer hepatitis C and HIV testing at our syringe services location, and that's on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12 to 5 at 1000 Cherry Street Southeast in downtown Olympia, and provided 21 tests in the month of October. This is really important in the COVID-19 pandemic, as we've seen cases of hepatitis C and HIV increasing. Our Nurse Family Partnership Program supported 453 families with home visits via telehealth in the month of October. And thank you to Commissioner Hutchings for facilitating a great turnout for our Partners Action Team through Thurston Thrives, with speakers who addressed parental stress and remote learning last month, which you also heard a lot about in the public comments tonight. That is a priority for us, and we continue to work to support our community through our Partners Action Team. In terms of suicide prevention, our staff provided funding and training through the Familiar Faces program, and provided that training to various community partners via a contract that we have with Family Education and Support Services, as well as other community partnerships. We also held 2 medicine take-back events in Tenino and Tumwater. And upcoming on your Board of Health presentation, you'll have more detail. The Board of Health meeting, you'll have a more detailed presentation on our substance use prevention efforts and safe disposal medication new drop boxes that I shared with you last month. And finally, our Veterans Advisory Board met on October 19th, this last month, and the Veterans Assistance Fund will be recommending to the Board of County Commissioners at an upcoming meeting recommending additional funding to be made available for veterans who are struggling in light of COVID-19. And with that, I will answer any questions that you have. Thank you so much for allowing me this time to share these department updates with you.
Questions for Shelley?
No, sir.
No, sir. All right, thank you, Shelley. Thank you for tolerating at least me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. No questions.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up for today. And of course, we'll be meeting in the very near future at a date and time to be fixed, possibly Friday, possibly next week. With that, is there a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn the Board of Health meeting
Second.
November 10.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.